Hello world, welcome back to the Razor RC, and I finally picked up a new basher radio. Those who've been following my channel for a while probably know that I have a Spektrum DX5C. This is my regular bashing radio. It's what I hook up to all my Armas, pretty much all my kits that I bash with, like the Crane EXB or the Kronos XTR, something like that. I'll put in a Spektrum receiver and control everything with this single radio. Solid radio, and when it first came out about 4 or 5 years ago, it wasn't that expensive. I think it was like $130 with a receiver or like $99 without, and it's been a very reliable radio. Actually my favorite basher radio, but it's getting a little long in the tooth, starting to get a little worn out. It's like extremely dirty and pretty much starting to go. So I decided to upgrade and pick up probably what is the best bashing radio on the market today. I know a lot of racers from Horizon, like the TLR guys and stuff, use this, but to me, I'm more of a sandwall guy on the racing side, but on the bashing side, I definitely like Spektrums. A big reason for that is that all the Horizon vehicles come with Spektrum receivers, and a lot of them will just bind right up. If they have the DSMR protocol, like an SR315 or SR6100 AT receiver. So always kind of nice that you can just leave the receiver in there and bind it right up to a Spektrum radio. So yeah, I picked one of these up. It was on sale. I think it was like 90 bucks off or something like that. So it was a pretty good deal, and decided to finally upgrade my Spektrum. So yeah, let's take a look at what's inside the box. Let's see how this thing opens up. Put it in there. And yeah, taking a look at this guy. I think it sells for like over $300 or something like that. I got a transmitter battery. I don't think it comes with it, but it is something I picked up. It does have different shims and adjustments for the wheel, so that's pretty cool. Different grips as well, of course, so you can hook it up to different size hands. And then the one I got comes with this little receiver, the SR2100 receiver, tiny little receiver, very nice receiver. That's the style I personally like, something that is easy to use. Quick look at the radio or the manual. Spektrum radios manuals are quite extensive. I wouldn't say they're the easiest thing to read, especially when they're in like the wrong language, but they are pretty comprehensive, a lot of text. But a good thing to read, especially on things on like how to bind, how to set it up, because Spektrum receivers can be somewhat difficult to bind up. There's usually a complicated procedure. If it's got AVC, you have to like calibrate the AVC while you are turning it on, and then that is important, otherwise your AVC is not going to work. One major drawback to this radio, it does have little screws to open up the battery tray. I guess it's a 1.5mm screw is what it looks like. So that is a bit annoying because most of them just have this little clip. Not really sure why they did that, but that is part of the Spektrum DX5 Pro experience. So upgrades of the DX5 Pro over the regular DX5C. The main one is the performance. This goes down to, I think it's 5.5 millisecond latency or frame rate, which is half the speed or double the speed, whatever you want to call it, over the regular DX5C, which runs at 11 milliseconds. So you should get a lot more responsiveness. It does have more features, of course. It does have all the smart stuff. So on any of your smart ESCs or smart batteries and stuff, you will be able to use this to monitor those things. And then it's got all the kind of racing type adjustments, so adjustable trigger tension, I believe, adjustable wheel tension, a lot of different shims so you can adjust the angle of the wheel. Much more of a drop down style wheel as well, as you can see, compared to the Spektrum DX5C. This is the wheel that comes with it. I'm actually running a small wheel on the DX5C. I might move that over. I think it does fit as well, so I would be able to run that, because the wheel is a little on the big side, especially compared to the Sanwa or Futaba wheels. Those tend to be a little bit smaller. This is definitely one of the largest wheels out there. It looks like a little cover for some sort of smart card or something. So I think you can copy over the settings and models and stuff from this radio to another one, download your data and all your settings. So yeah, that's what the Spektrum DX5 Pro looks like. And yeah, we're gonna plug it in and take a look at how it functions. Okay, we got a battery installed, and I actually ended up modifying the battery compartment to allow me to fit a Turnigy Life battery that I'm running, a 2100 milliamp hour battery. I do have a lithium ion Spektrum battery, but it does use this funky connector, which I don't actually have a charging cable for, so I would need to buy an adapter or a special cable or something like that. So I actually am running a Turnigy battery that already has that connector, as well as a standard Futaba 3-plug connector to allow me to charge it as well as run it in the battery compartment. And I will say that it's kind of annoying. The battery compartment uses this funky plug as well as a couple of screws. Not a fan of that. Just makes it more annoying to use. So here's the actual vehicle, or sorry, the receiver radio, and as you can see, a lot of functionality, pretty much the same as the DX5C. They do have a few more things, but all your standard model select. You can change the name, of course. Travel, which is endpoint adjustment. Subtrim, which is basically just trim to set where the middle of the servo or the throttle would be. You can obviously reverse channels. Speed. This is actually a useful functionality for race vehicles which have super fast servos and super fast response times. A lot of times it's actually too fast to use, so turning down the speed can actually make it easier to drive a car. Rates are going to be your dual rates on the steering and throttle side. Expo, again, is kind of the throttle or steering curves. Something useful, again, on race vehicles or even bashers that have crazy amount of power. So I actually put a receiver inside my Rival MT8. Might have to use the Expo on the throttle side because it is crazy fast. It does have a timer which you can start and stop with this little thumb button there. Binding, again, it goes down to 5.5 milliseconds. So I did bind this to a Rival MT8. Mixing, again, you can combine different channels, combo channels, or adjust things for tracked vehicles, or four-wheel drive steering, or four-wheel drive mixing, that kind of thing. ABC is Spektrum's version of stability control. I don't tend to use it, but it is an option to make cars easier to drive, especially two-wheel drive cars on dirt. It helps. ABS is a nice little function. Idle up is going to be for your nitro vehicles. Traction, I'm not really that familiar with, so I don't really know how that works. We'll have to do a little looking at that. The trim setup, you might want to do. I think you can adjust the stepping functions of these little adjustments. I think it's B and A. B, I think, does steering. A does throttle. Telemetry is nice. So, the smart system gives you battery voltage, receiver voltage, I think RPMs as well, different telemetry options. Drive modes are kind of like these set functions for your different vehicles. So you might have specific drive modes for stock racing or modified or whatever. Just kind of your standard settings to make vehicles easier to drive. I think there are standardized ones out of the box. Not something I use, but it is available. In system settings, you can adjust this display, trims, sounds. Obviously, I have all these clicky sounds and stuff. About the radio, mine is actually running this, so version 1.09, and you can calibrate the radio, which I did. It's a good idea to do that out of the box. And finally, the system access. Here you can take a look at that, but you can basically download models to the SD card, make adjustments to the different models. So yeah, DX5 Pro in a nutshell. Obviously, you drop down steering wheel. It is right-handed only, not left-handed only. Trigger wheel. I did switch out the radio wheel to the smaller wheel. It does come in the box, so that's pretty nice. This is kind of my preferred wheel size, but it does have 3 different options for that. And then all your buttons and trims. So 4 knobs up top, a push button here on the bottom, thumb push button, a couple of triggers here left and right there, variable rate knob here, and then a 3-way adjuster up top. On the back side, the same 2 trims or adjusters, left, right, and a push button here as the right hand side. I think they're the exact same buttons. Yeah, so pretty nice radio overall. Really the main concerns I have is the screws that you gotta use to open up the battery compartment is pretty annoying. Also, the battery tray does use a special plug. Somebody let me know what that actual plug is. I'm not sure what the name of that is, but I don't have an adapter for that, so to charge this battery would be a little bit annoying, and I don't have that. And it is a little bit fiddly to get to, and this battery compartment is kind of small, so I did actually clearance out the back here so I could fit in a larger size battery. But yeah, we're going to try this out and see how it performs. Auto linearity seems pretty good. Nice. Much better. So I'm running a SR315 receiver. Which I'm running at max punch actually on 6S. So this is actually a good test because this truck is hard to control in general on 6S. So much better. Yeah, stock radio on this thing, not the greatest, and oh, such a different truck with a good radio. This radio, yeah, very responsive. Does have a drop-down wheel, which not used to having this low of a wheel, but no big deal. I'm also running the small wheel. Oh, so nice. Triple. Not a problem. A little too much throttle there. Yeah, radio's working pretty good. Okay, so that was some running footage of the Spektrum DX5 Pro running for the first time on a Team Associated Rival MT8 on 6S. So it made a huge difference with that particular car. The stock radio for the Rival MT8 is really, really poor. Throwing in the Spektrum receiver with this radio made it 10 times easier to control. It makes such a huge difference on certain cars that have bad radios, and certainly a big upgrade on certain bashers. So I just want to share my final thoughts on the DX5 Pro. So first off, the things I like. First off, the controls are really, really good. It actually drives correctly. I can't say the same thing about other radios out there. Like I have a FlySky Noble NB4, and I did notice, some issues with the controls on that, where there's kind of a dead band right off neutral. Also, linearity of the throttle and steering was not quite correct. So it's nice to see. That's really something you get with the bigger brands, Sanwa, Futaba, Spektrum. They actually have their linearity of the controls down. They are perfect. They do exactly what you think. And a lot of other lower end models and stuff actually are not calibrated correctly to run with the proper linearity and the controls. Also very responsive. 5.5 millisecond frame rate is going to be fast enough, I think, for everyone out there. To go and defend is the primary driver for Team Losi Racing out there at Horizon. And he runs this radio, the DX5 Pro. no problems competing with the best, winning races, all that kind of stuff. So I think 5.5 milliseconds is totally fine. There are other brands, other radios out there that are faster than this, but I don't think any normal person will really notice or even have a need for something faster. So I think that's not an issue at all. Other nice things, a lot of control adjustments. So it does come with different wheels, different grips. You can adjust spring tension on the throttle, spring tension on the wheel. You can even adjust the position of the trigger, so you can move it forward and back. A lot of different sizes, like I mentioned. So a lot of configurability, I guess you would call it, to change the ergonomics to make it how you like. I'm not a particularly big fan of this super drop down wheel. I do find it kind of low. I don't know if they make a different one to kind of raise it up a little bit, but I find it a little bit lower. Definitely different than most radios out there. So you will want to try this thing out and make sure it fits your hand correctly and it is comfortable, because that's always important with driving a vehicle. So things I don't like about the radio. First off, display is kind of basic. You know, it's fine. It's big enough, but there's nothing particularly special about it. It is backlit, so that's nice. The radio itself is also fairly bulky. I mean, it's actually even bigger than my DX5C, which is a bulky radio in its own right. Other things, it does feel a little cheap in my opinion. I think the quality of the construction's a little bit lower than some of the other brands out there. You know, it's fine, but I wouldn't say it's really best in class. And so maybe something you might want to check out, because you are paying quite a bit. I think this retails for like $330 or so. So it is a fairly expensive radio, and the construction maybe not quite there. And really the main one is the battery tray. This is probably my biggest gripe about this radio. It does have 2 screws to remove to open up the battery tray. They are 1.5 millimeter screws, so that's pretty annoying. The other thing is the battery compartment does not really fit too many different batteries out there. It does fit the Spektrum radio. Sorry, the Spektrum battery, and here's what it looks like. That will fit correctly, but pretty much every other LiPo, lithium ion, or Life battery will not really fit correctly. Also uses funky plug that I'm not a fan of. I wish it used sort of a standard Futaba plug like everybody else. So that's my #1 gripe with this radio. But other than that, seems okay. You know, obviously it has all the functionality you need: the 4-wheel steering, the anti-lock brakes, the multi-modal memory. You can download stuff, the backlit display, the mixing. So a lot of functionality. I wouldn't say it's really that impressive, the number of features. It is a little bit more of a basic radio, but I think actually something that will, you know, honestly for me, it has all the functionality I need: the travel, endpoint adjustment, the speed, all that kind of stuff. So I don't have any other needs that this radio does not meet. But yeah, overall, so who would I recommend this for? I personally will not really be racing with this radio. I'm more a fan of the Sanwa or even the Futaba. I think I do like the controls, the responsiveness a little bit better. I do like the way it feels a little bit better. But for bashing, you know, especially if you're a Horizon hobby fan, if you buy Armors, if you buy Axials, any of those Horizon products, if you buy them kind of at the mid-level or above, they will come with a receiver that's compatible with this, so you can actually use this radio to control all your cars. The ones that are like 350 or lower, they won't have a DSMR compatible receiver. They're usually SLT3 or something like that. So those lower end ones, you know, won't bind right up. But for most of the mid to higher end Horizon hobby products, they will work with this radio. So that's why I kind of feel like this is perfect for bashing. Receivers are not totally expensive. Kind of a basic DSMR receiver is $35 for an SR215. So it is affordable, a little bit less than most of the other big brands out there. So that is nice. But I do feel like the cost of this is a little bit high for what you get. The value not quite as good as some of the other radios. But, you know, a solid radio overall. I think it's fine for racing, fine, actually really good for bashing. You might want to tape up these little holes here for the speaker just so dirt doesn't get in there. But, you know, pretty good bashing radio, and especially if you're somebody that likes to use the same radio for both. Maybe you buy a lot of Horizon products, drive them as bashers, and then you also want to race some, you know, A-Scale or TLR or other vehicles, and you want to use the same controller for that. This is going to be perfect for that in my opinion. So yeah, overall, that's my review of the DX5 Pro. If you have any questions or concerns or anything else you want to add, throw them down in the description or in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the add notifications button. Look for more videos soon, and thanks for watching.